Welcome to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of Academia IDU, and today we're exploring a paper that honestly, wow, it's a big one. It's called the Machiavellian Marketing Framework, MMF, a paradigm for control, perception, and psychological strategy in the algorithmic era, written by Hadrian Stone. Remember, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm here to neutrally present insights from academic research, so you listening, can reflect on how this all connects to your world. So, let's dig in. What is this Machiavellian marketing framework all about? And why should anyone, say someone scrolling through their favorite social media feed or running a small business, care? At the core, Stone's paper asks a pretty radical question. Is modern marketing about persuading people, or is it about controlling the very reality people perceive? In other words, has marketing moved past trying to convince you and started working on designing the environment that shapes your beliefs so deeply? You can't even tell where your opinions end and the brands begin? That's honestly a bit chilling, but also super intriguing, right? Because if you're like me, you probably assumed that marketing is about catchy slogans, slick TikTok ads, or maybe the old classic, word of mouth. But Stone argues that the rules have changed drastically. The main idea here is that in the algorithmic era, that is an age run by algorithms, data, narrative loops, the advantage isn't about communication, but about architecture. In this framework, marketers are, well, not just storytellers, but hidden architects building belief systems from the ground up. How does Stone get to this point? The framework draws from some, let's say, heavyweight thinkers. Machiavelli, Nietzsche, Foucault. It's like the philosophy track meets Madison Avenue. Machiavelli believed that appearances matter more than truth. You want to appear good even if you're not. Nietzsche, he saw human behavior as all about imposing your will, controlling meaning. Then Foucault. He's all about power through controlling knowledge and discourse, right? Stone weaves this intellectual trio into a new form of what he calls psychological governance. Not persuasion, but engineering inevitability. That's the claim. So, how does the Machiavellian marketing framework actually work? Stone breaks it down into 4 dimensions: control, perception, scarcity, and inevitability. Let's unpack those for a second. First, control. Marketers don't just want to influence your opinions, they want to shape what enters your field of view, what you even regard as possible or worthy of consideration. Like, imagine only seeing certain choices every time you open a shopping app. Perception comes next. This is about designing the illusion of authenticity. Carefully repeating narratives using symbols and stories to create resonance until it feels genuine. Scarcity, both of goods, but also of information or status, makes things feel valuable or even necessary. And then there's inevitability, the sense that a brand isn't just a choice in the market, it's destiny. Like, of course you use this app, everyone does, there's no real alternative. What does this mean for you? Well, Stone is really saying that you, as a consumer or citizen or even just a person surfing the web, might not always see the invisible architecture shaping your choices. Those product recommendations or that viral narrative can be less about serving up what you want and more about switching the goalposts entirely. The MMF framework nudges us to ask, who's building the frame around my choices, and am I deciding or being decided for? And remember, I'm presenting these ideas neutrally. This isn't advocacy, it's an opportunity for you to reflect. The paper doesn't shy away from the big ethical questions either. If influence becomes less about sharing information and more about structuring experience in advance, where does that leave free will, transparency, accountability? Stone says we have to talk seriously about whether ethical marketing can exist if the rules of the game are about invisible control instead of visible persuasion. Can we even recognize when a choice is ours in this kind of landscape? It's not a problem you solve overnight, and the paper definitely leaves more questions than answers. One reason why academic research is always evolving. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of when people insisted the internet was just a digital library. And look how that turned out. Wait, what was I? Anyway, see, my point is, things always change in surprising ways. Stone is pretty clear that the MMF isn't the final word. He calls for more research, like, can we empirically measure when influence shifts from helpful guidance to outright manipulation? What checks and balances are possible, if any? And what would it look like, practically as humans, to design ethically responsible belief architectures? So, to wrap up, the Machiavellian Marketing Framework is not just about marketers or the bad guys behind the curtain. It's about asking big questions that touch everyday life. How do brands, through algorithms, context, and narrative, shape the world as we see it? Can consumers fight back? Do we want them to? That's up to you. Again, not an endorsement, just presenting some fascinating insights for your own toolbox. Thanks for joining me today on In Depth with Academia. I hope you've picked up something to chew on. Next time you encounter an ad that just feels a little too inevitable, I'll see you next time. And remember, knowledge is always a work in progress.